What if the person you were running from was the one your heart was running to? The question would one day haunt Lee Sung, but tonight it was just a whisper lost in the cold Seoul air. He was sprinting down Gangnam's crowded streets, his expensive jacket flapping behind him like a banner of rebellion. Behind him, the black sedan sent by his grandmother crept along, its headlights cutting through the night like watchful eyes. Another blind date. Another perfect girl chosen by Chairwoman Kim. Another trap. Lee Sung's breath came out in white clouds. Not again, he muttered. I'm not a chess piece for her to move. He turned sharply into a quieter alley to escape the car, but in his rush, he didn't see the small figure stepping out of a grocery store. Crash. Groceries spilled everywhere, apples rolling into gutters, bread flattened under shoes. Oh no, the stranger gasped, dropping to the ground to gather what she could. Lee Sung knelt, scooping up a bruised apple. His fingers brushed against hers, and for a split second, the city's noise faded. The touch was warm, electric. The stranger's hoodie shadowed their face, but a strand of tightly weaved hair peeked out, shining under the dim streetlight. Watch where you're going, the stranger snapped in a low, rough voice, too low, too forced. Lisa Jake's heart hammered. The groceries had cost her almost everything she had. Her father was gone, her mother was sick, and she couldn't risk losing this food. Pretending to be a boy was her only way to survive in a city that could swallow her whole. I'm sorry, Lee Sung said with a lazy grin that masked his curiosity. I'm just running from bad decisions. Lisa stood, clutching her groceries close. Then stop making them, she said quietly, surprising even herself with her boldness. Something about her, her fire, her voice, that one stray braid, made him pause. It didn't fit. The hoodie, the boyish stance, but those eyes. They were too deep, too soft. Lisa walked away quickly, praying he wouldn't follow. But she felt his gaze burning into her back, like he already suspected she wasn't what she seemed. She told herself not to look back. But she did. Just once. Their eyes met again, and for that single heartbeat, Seoul seemed to hold its breath. Lee Sung's grin faded into a whisper only the night could hear. Who are you? Lisa hugged the bags tighter and muttered to herself, nobody you should know. Across the street, a faded wooden sign creaked in the wind, Coffee Town. Its windows were dark, its paint chipped, its chairs abandoned. But inside those walls, a story was waiting. Lisa's steps quickened as she thought of her mother waiting at home, weak but still smiling. She couldn't afford to be distracted by some careless stranger with expensive shoes. Work, money, survival, those were her priorities. But even as she disappeared into the night, Lee Sung couldn't shake the strange warmth from her touch. He had been running from love all his life, pretending to be someone he wasn't to escape his grandmother's plans. Yet tonight, under Seoul's glowing skyline, he had collided with a stranger who felt like both a question and an answer. And somewhere in the city, fate quietly began to weave their paths together, toward an old cafe, a jealous rival, and a love strong enough to rewrite both their lives. How far would you go to hide the truth, even if it meant losing yourself? Lee Sung sat slouched in his penthouse living room, the city lights stretching far beyond the glass walls like stars fallen to earth. Chairwoman Kim's voice still echoed in his mind, you will marry a proper woman, or you will lose everything, Sung. Her words had been final, like a judge's verdict. But he couldn't do it, couldn't be forced into a life he didn't choose. He swirled the untouched glass of whiskey on the table, thinking of the stranger with the tightly weaved hair and the fierce eyes. There had been something about him that didn't fit, a sharpness mixed with softness. He didn't even know the stranger's name, yet that brief meeting felt more real than any of his grandmother's blind dates. Meanwhile, across town in a tiny, drafty apartment, Lisa Jake quietly placed groceries on the small kitchen counter. Her mother lay on a thin mattress in the corner, a soft cough rattling her chest. You're late, her mother said weakly, managing a small smile. Lisa forced a cheerful tone. Seoul traffic, she lied, though her mind was still on the man she'd crashed into. His expensive jacket, his searching eyes, he wasn't someone she should ever see again. She couldn't risk her disguise slipping. Being found out as a girl looking for work in dangerous places could cost her more than her pride, it could cost her safety. The next morning, Lee Sung stood outside Coffee Town, the dying cafe his grandmother had just handed him. The wooden sign was faded, the chairs inside coated in dust, the espresso machine broken. A once bustling place, now forgotten. Chairwoman Kim's words had been sharp: save it or sell it. If you fail, you're out of the family business. He sighed. I can't run a coffee shop alone. As if fate were listening, a familiar figure hurried past the corner. The hoodie. The groceries. The weaved hair. Lee Sung's lips curved into a sly grin. Hey, apple thief, he called. Lisa froze. Slowly, she turned, adjusting her hoodie lower over her forehead. It's you, she muttered, not sure if she was angry or nervous. I need your help, Lee Sung said, stepping closer. And before you say no, hear me out. Lisa blinked. Help? From a stranger you almost knocked over? Exactly, he replied smoothly. You're perfect for what I need. My grandmother wants me to date. I told her I was gay. Lisa's eyes widened. What does that have to do with me? I need someone to pretend to be my boyfriend, he said simply, as if it were the most normal request in the world. Lisa almost laughed, but the sound caught in her throat. Rent was due in 3 days. Her mother's medicine was expensive. And jobs for a boy with no experience didn't come easy. That's crazy, she said at last. Maybe, he admitted, his grin widening. But I'll pay you. Well. He gestured at Coffee Town behind him. And I could use someone to help me run this place. Just until it's alive again. Lisa's heartbeat thudded in her ears. The sensible thing would be to walk away. But money meant survival. She lowered her gaze. Fine. I'll help. But you follow my rules. Lee Sung's grin softened into something warmer. Deal. As they stood before the broken cafe, Seoul's morning sun painted the street in gold. Neither of them realized that this fake agreement, this reckless, impossible deal, would soon become the most real thing in their lives. From behind a tinted car window across the street, a pair of sharp eyes watched them. Shin-hai, Lee Sung's first love, lowered her sunglasses, a faint smirk playing on her lips. She could already sense trouble brewing at Coffee Town. And she was ready to stir it. What if the lie you told to protect yourself became the very thing that could destroy you? Coffee Town smelled of dust and old memories. Sunlight leaked through cracked blinds, lighting up the faded menu board and broken chairs. Lisa Jake stood in the center of the room, her groceries money already spent on a wig brush and an extra hoodie, small things to keep her disguise in place. The cafe was supposed to be her new chance, yet it looked like a graveyard for dreams. Lee Sung strolled in, humming as if the place were already thriving. He kicked a broken stool lightly. Well, he said, it's not completely hopeless. Lisa arched an eyebrow, her weaved hair hidden beneath her cap. It looks dead to me. We'll fix it, he said, flashing the grin that always got him out of trouble. A little paint, new chairs, good coffee. Easy. She crossed her arms. You mean I'll fix it while you pose for selfies? He smirked but said nothing. Deep down, Lee Sung knew she was right. He'd never worked for anything in his life. But something about Lisa's blunt honesty made him want to prove he wasn't useless. They spent the morning scrubbing floors, wiping tables, and sorting through boxes. Lisa's hands ached, but she stayed quiet. Work was better than hunger. At one point, her cap slipped, revealing a glimpse of her neat, tightly weaved hair. Lee Sung noticed but said nothing, his curiosity burning quietly. By noon, the door chimed. Shin-hai entered, her high heels clicking against the wooden floor like warning shots. She wore a fitted white coat and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Lee Sung, she said sweetly. I heard you were running a coffee shop. Her gaze flicked briefly to Lisa, then back to him. Lee Sung's shoulders tensed. Just helping my grandmother's place, he replied casually. Shin-hai's smile tightened. And your boyfriend? She gestured toward Lisa with a delicate wave. Lisa froze. Her voice caught in her throat before she forced a low, rough tone. Yeah, that's me. Shin-hai's eyes lingered on her, sharp and assessing. Interesting. She turned back to Lee Sung. You always did like surprises. When she finally left, Lisa let out a shaky breath. She doesn't believe it. Then we make her believe it, Lee Sung said, determination hardening his voice. Over the next few days, the two of them worked side by side. Lisa taught herself to operate the coffee machine, spilling milk on her sleeve more than once. Lee Sung, surprisingly, learned to grind beans and mop floors without complaining. Sometimes, their hands brushed over a cup or a rag, and each touch left a spark neither dared to name. But rumors began to spread. Customers whispered outside the dusty windows. Some said the heir to Kim Corporation had fallen for a mysterious boy. Others said Coffee Town was doomed. Lisa tried to ignore it, but one evening as she locked up, she saw Shinhai across the street, watching them. Her arms were folded, her expression unreadable. "Your first love is dangerous," Lisa muttered under her breath, even as she felt a strange pang of guilt for a love that wasn't even real. Inside, Lee Sung stood alone at the counter, staring at the old sign above the door. Coffee Town was starting to look alive again, but so was the lie they'd built, and Shinhai was already stirring trouble that could tear it all apart. The air in Seoul that night was thick with secrets, and the cafe's walls seemed to hum with the weight of what was coming. What's more dangerous, losing love, or watching someone else hold the love you thought was yours? Seoul's night air was cool, but inside Coffee Town the tension was warm enough to sting. The cafe had begun to breathe again. Clean tables, repaired lights, and a fresh aroma of roasted beans filled the room. Customers trickled in, curious about the heir of Kim Corporation suddenly playing barista. To them, it was gossip made real. To Shinhai, it was an insult. She stood outside the window, arms folded, her heels silent against the pavement. Through the glass, she watched Lee Sung lean closer to Lisa Jake, still in her hoodie, still wearing the disguise. Their heads bent together over a new drink recipe, their laughter soft but genuine. Something sharp twisted in Shinhai's chest. Inside, Lisa was showing Lee Sung how to pour steamed milk without spilling. "Tilt your hand," she said, guiding his wrist carefully. The moment stretched, his warm fingers brushing hers, his breath close enough to tangle with hers. "Like this?" he asked, his voice lower than usual. She nodded quickly, trying not to meet his eyes. Her heart beat so fast she was sure he could hear it. This wasn't part of the deal. Pretending was supposed to be simple, no feelings, no risk. But her chest ached with something dangerous every time he smiled at her. The cafe door chimed. Shinhai walked in, her perfume preceding her like a warning bell. "Busy today," she said sweetly, her gaze sweeping over them. "You two seem close." Lee Sung straightened. "We're working." Shinhai's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. But you should be careful, Sung. People are talking." She let her eyes flick toward Lisa. "And not everyone believes what you're selling." Lisa's stomach tightened. Did Shinhai know? She lowered her gaze, gripping a rag too tightly. Shinhai stepped closer to Lee Sung, close enough for Lisa to notice the way her hand almost brushed his arm. "Remember, you don't owe anyone explanations, but lies have a way of collapsing." With that, she left, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. The sound echoed even after the door shut. Lisa exhaled slowly. "She's dangerous," she murmured. Lee Sung tried to laugh it off but couldn't shake the unease creeping into his chest. "She's just jealous," he said. "She doesn't like seeing me happy." The days that followed were a mix of progress and whispers. Coffee Town began drawing regular customers, the smell of fresh coffee curling out into the street like an invitation. Lisa trained the new part-time workers, her disguise holding firm under her cap and boyish voice. Yet everywhere she turned, she felt Shinhai's shadow, subtle comments from customers, a rumor overheard on the bus, even a supplier hinting that someone was spreading doubts about the cafe's future. One evening, Lisa caught Shinhai across the street again, talking quietly with a pair of business owners. When Shinhai's eyes met hers, the older woman smiled, not kindly, but like someone holding a secret weapon. Lisa's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to protect her mother, to keep their fragile world from breaking. But then she glanced back at Lee Sung inside the cafe. He was laughing with a customer, wiping his hands on a towel, looking more alive than she'd ever seen him. And she realized she couldn't leave. For the first time, the thought slipped in uninvited, maybe I'm not pretending anymore. Across town, Shinhai poured herself a glass of wine and whispered to her reflection, "Let's see how long your little game lasts, Sung." The night outside was quiet, but Coffee Town's walls felt heavy, holding its secrets tight. The storm Shinhai was stirring was only just beginning, and none of them were ready for what jealousy could do. How many secrets can a single lie hold before everything breaks? Morning sunlight spilled through Coffeetown's windows, making the polished tables gleam. The cafe buzzed softly with early customers, the smell of freshly ground beans warming the air. Lisa Jake wiped the counter, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. Every day her disguise felt thinner, more fragile, like a mask slipping inch by inch. Lee Sung leaned against the espresso machine, his usual grin softer now. He had begun to notice little things. The way Lisa avoided changing clothes in front of others, the small braid marks beneath her cap when the light hit just right, and the quick, nervous way she dodged certain questions. "You're quiet today," he said. Lisa forced a chuckle. "Just tired. Too many late nights." But he wasn't convinced. "You're hiding something," he teased, his tone light, but his eyes searching. She turned away quickly, her heart hammering. If he found out she wasn't the boy he thought she was, she'd lose everything: the job, the money for her mother's medicine, maybe even her safety. That afternoon, Shinhai swept into the cafe like a cold breeze. Her designer coat sparkled under the lights, her smile perfectly polished. She greeted a few customers before stopping at the counter. "Coffeetown looks improved," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "You've been working hard, Sung." Lee Sung nodded cautiously. "We're making progress." Her gaze flicked to Lisa. "And your loyal boyfriend." She let the word hang in the air, sharp and pointed. "He's very quiet." Almost as if he's afraid to speak. Lisa clenched her jaw but said nothing. Shinhai lowered her voice so only Sung could hear. "You know, people are whispering. They're saying your new relationship isn't what it seems. Be careful. A scandal could ruin Coffeetown before it's even alive again." When she left, Lee Sung's chest felt heavy. Rumors were spreading faster than he expected. Outside, he caught a glimpse of Shinhai on her phone, her lips curved into a knowing smirk. That night, after closing, Lisa stayed behind to mop the floor. The cafe was quiet, the city's glow peeking through the blinds. She paused by the window, staring at the sign, Coffeetown. Saving this place was supposed to be simple. Pretend to be a boy. Pretend to be a boyfriend. Earn enough money to save her family. But the truth was pressing against the walls of her disguise. She whispered to herself, one wrong step and it all falls apart. Behind her, Lee Sung's voice startled her. "What falls apart?" She spun around, the mop clattering to the floor. He stood in the doorway, the streetlights framing him like a scene from a drama. "Nothing," she said too quickly. He stepped closer, his expression serious now. "Lisa, or whatever your name really is, who are you?" Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, she considered telling him the truth. But then she thought of her mother's medicine, the rent due in a week, and the sharp glint in Shinhai's eyes. "I'm nobody," she whispered. Lee Sung studied her for a long moment. The air between them was thick with unspoken words. Finally, he stepped back, masking his suspicion with a crooked smile. "Then, nobody, don't disappear on me." When he left, Lisa sank onto a chair, her hands trembling. Across the city, Shinhai sat in a quiet bar, plotting her next move. The whispers she had started were growing louder, and soon, one of those whispers might shout the truth for everyone to hear. Outside Coffeetown, the wind rattled the old wooden sign like a warning. Secrets have a way of breaking free. And the next break could shatter more than a coffee shop, it could shatter two fragile hearts. Sometimes the truth doesn't break you, it sets you free, even if it hurts first. The Seoul skyline glittered like 1,000 scattered stars as night settled over the city. Lee Sung walked aimlessly, his thoughts heavier than the chilly wind that tugged at his coat. Every memory of Lisa Jake replayed in his head, the way her hands trembled when Shinhai taunted her, the strange softness hidden behind her rough voice, and the glimpse of tightly weaved hair under her cap. He couldn't deny it anymore. The pieces fit too perfectly. At Coffeetown, Lisa stacked chairs in silence. Her heart ached with every creak of the wooden floor. The cafe had begun to thrive again. Customers laughed at tables, the smell of rich coffee filled the street, and tips clinked into jars. But none of that mattered if the lie collapsed. She pressed her forehead to the cool window. "If he finds out, it's over," she whispered. Behind her, the door clicked open. She spun around to find Lee Sung leaning against the frame, his expression unreadable. The hum of Seoul traffic filled the silence between them. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Lisa's breath caught. About what? He stepped closer, his eyes steady but gentle. About you. About who you really are. She swallowed hard, her hands gripping the edge of a chair. Sung. I can explain. He nodded slowly. Then explain. The words tumbled out of her, fragile but honest. My father died. My mum is sick. I couldn't get a job, not as a girl. No one would take me seriously. So I dressed like a boy. I didn't mean to fool you. I just needed to survive. Lee Sung stood there, silent, the weight of her confession sinking in. Finally, he stepped closer, close enough for her to see the hurt flicker in his eyes, but also something else, relief. I knew something didn't add up, he said softly. But hearing you say it, it's different. Tears threatened Lisa's eyes. Are you angry? I should be, he admitted. Then he let out a small laugh, shaking his head. But I'm not. I'm relieved, actually. You're not who I thought you were, you're more. Lisa blinked at him, stunned. You're brave, Lisa Jake, he continued, his voice low and warm. You stepped into a world that would crush most people, just to save your family. And you saved me, too. You made me care about something real for once. Under the flickering neon sign outside the cafe, the city seemed to pause. Lee Sung reached out, gently lifting her chin. I don't care what name you use, or how you dress. I just care about you. Lisa's chest tightened, and for the first time in weeks, she let herself breathe. The mask she'd been wearing, the hoodie, the rough voice, the constant fear, slipped away under his gaze. Then, without warning, he pulled her into a careful embrace. She stiffened at first, then melted against him, the warmth of his arms dissolving weeks of worry. Outside, the neon lights of Seoul blinked, casting soft colors over them, pink, blue, and gold, as if the city itself was blessing the fragile beginning of their love. But across the street, in the shadow of a parked car, Shinhai watched. Her nails dug into her palm, and a bitter smile curved her lips. So that's your secret, Lisa Jake, she whispered. And now, it's mine to use. As she disappeared into the night, the wind rattled Coffeetown's sign again. Inside, Lisa and Lee Sung stood quietly, holding each other, unaware of the storm Shinhai was about to unleash. The city lights sparkled like promises above them, but promises could break. And jealousy had just found its sharpest weapon. What's more fragile than love? A dream built on secrets, and Shinhai was ready to break both. The morning sun painted Seoul in pale gold, but inside Coffeetown, the air felt heavy. Business had been improving, regular customers, warm chatter, the smell of fresh espresso curling into the street, but Lisa Jake couldn't shake the unease prickling her skin. Shinhai hadn't shown her face in days, and that silence was louder than any threat. Lisa wiped a table, her hands unsteady. Lee Sung noticed. You're too quiet, he said, leaning against the counter. She forced a smile. Just tired. But both of them knew the peace was fragile. That afternoon, as the cafe filled with customers, a loud voice cut through the buzz. So it's true, Kim Corporation's heir is dating a liar. The room went still. A man stood at the door, waving his phone. On the screen was a grainy photo, Lisa without her hoodie, her weaved hair fully visible, taken the night of her confession with Lee Sung under the neon lights. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, she's not even a boy. Another murmured, was this all a scam? Lisa froze, her heart plummeting. Lee Sung's face hardened as he spotted Shinhai outside the window, her lips curved in a cruel, satisfied smile. She had leaked the photo, exposing Lisa's identity and their fake relationship. Everybody out, Lee Sung said firmly, but the damage was done. Customers left murmuring, a few snapping more photos as they went. Coffeetown, once alive with hope, now felt like a sinking ship. Lisa turned to Lee Sung, tears brimming. I'm sorry. I should never have. Don't, he interrupted gently, though his voice trembled with anger. This isn't your fault. This is her doing. But later that night, alone in her small apartment, Lisa sat on the floor beside her sleeping mother, doubt gnawing at her. Maybe Shinhai was right. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe loving Lee Sung was selfish when she was barely holding her life together. Meanwhile, Shinhai sipped wine in her luxurious apartment, scrolling through online chatter. Posts about Coffeetown flooded social media, Speculation, mockery, outrage. One final push, she whispered. She had already called a supplier, warning them against working with the cafe. She'd even hinted to a food blogger that Coffeetown was a fraud. The next morning, Lee Sung arrived early to find delivery crates missing and a cancellation notice pinned to the door. Without beans and milk, they couldn't serve customers. A group of regulars stopped by, took one look at the locked cafe, and walked away. Lisa arrived moments later, breathless. What happened? They're cutting us off, Lee Sung said, his voice tight. She's trying to kill Coffeetown. Lisa looked at the empty shelves, her chest tightening. She thought of her mother's fragile health, of the rent she couldn't pay without this job, and of Lee Sung's grandmother's ultimatum. It all felt too big to fight. But when she looked at Lee Sung, she saw something different, determination sparking in his eyes. We're not giving up, he said firmly. She wants us to quit, Lisa. Let's show her we won't. Lisa hesitated, then nodded slowly. Somewhere deep inside, past the fear and doubt, a flame of resolve flickered. That night, Lee Sung sent messages to loyal customers, asking for help. Lisa reached out to neighbors and friends. By dawn, a small crowd had gathered outside Coffeetown, ready to paint signs, donate beans, and work for free. From her apartment across town, Shinhai stared at her phone, watching support for Coffeetown grow. Her smirk faltered for the first time. The battle wasn't over. But as the sun rose over Seoul, Lee Sung and Lisa stood side by side in front of Coffeetown's door, hands intertwined. They weren't just fighting for a cafe anymore, they were fighting for love, for family, and for the belief that even a fragile dream could be saved. Above them, the old sign creaked in the wind as if it, too, refused to fall. Sometimes the strongest walls are built from broken pieces, and love is the mortar that holds them together. Morning light bathed Coffeetown in soft gold, but the cafe's windows were still cracked from last night's storm of rumors and betrayal. Lee Sung stood outside, sleeves rolled up, staring at the faded sign above the door. The whispers online hadn't stopped, some still mocked them, others doubted their future, but he wasn't giving up. Not now. Lisa Jake arrived a few minutes later, her tightly weaved hair catching the sunlight. She looked tired, but her eyes burned with quiet determination. For a moment, she and Lee Sung just stood there, side by side, staring at the cafe that had become more than a job or a game. It was their dream now, theirs to fight for. Ready? Lee Sung asked. Lisa nodded, her voice steady. Let's bring Coffeetown back to life. By mid-morning, the small crowd of regular customers had gathered again. They brought buckets of paint, bags of beans, and even home-baked cookies. An elderly man painted over the cafe's worn walls while a teenage girl arranged flowers on the tables. Neighbors scrubbed the floors, polished the windows, and brewed free samples of coffee to lure passers-by. Lisa worked tirelessly, mopping and cleaning until her hands ached. She showed two new part-timers how to make perfect lattes, her laughter ringing out over the clatter of cups. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't pretending, she wasn't a fake boy or a desperate stranger. She was simply Lisa Jake, a woman who had fought for her family and her place in this city. Inside, Lee Sung carefully fixed the old espresso machine. He glanced over at Lisa, watching the sunlight catch her cheek as she smiled at a child sipping cocoa. His chest tightened. This wasn't just about proving something to his grandmother anymore, it was about building something real with the woman who had changed him. That evening, the cafe reopened with a warm glow spilling onto the street. Music played softly, laughter bubbled around tables, and the smell of fresh coffee danced in the air. Chairwoman Kim arrived quietly, her sharp eyes sweeping the room. She had come prepared to scold, but instead, she found a cafe brimming with life and customers who spoke kindly of her grandson. Lee Sung approached her, wiping his hands on his apron. "Grandmother," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "This is what I choose. This cafe. This life. And her." Chairwoman Kim followed his gaze to Lisa, who was carrying a tray of drinks with effortless grace. After a long moment, the older woman's expression softened. "She's not who I imagined for you," she admitted. "But maybe, she's exactly who you needed." When the last customer left and the lights dimmed, Lee Sung guided Lisa to the small patio outside, where Seoul's neon lights blinked like distant stars. The city hummed quietly around them. "Lisa," he said, his voice low but steady. She turned to face him, her heart already racing. What is it? He took her hands in his, the warmth of his touch chasing away every doubt. You changed my world. You showed me what real love and real work look like. I don't ever want to go back to the man I was before I met you. Tears welled in her eyes as he sank to one knee, the city lights painting their shadows on the pavement. Marry me, he whispered. Lisa's breath caught. For a heartbeat, the world held still. The noise, the traffic, even the wind seemed to pause. Then she nodded, her smile breaking like sunrise. Yes, she breathed. As Lee Sung slid a simple silver band onto her finger, cheers erupted from the cafe's window. Staff and friends had been watching. Chairwoman Kim even allowed herself a small, proud smile. Coffee Town glowed brighter than ever that night, its old wooden sign no longer creaking like a warning but singing like a promise. And beneath Seoul's endless sky, two hearts, once strangers, now beat as one, proving that love, no matter how unlikely, can revive even the most broken dreams.